He said, "Thank you so much for interning with me. Don't be an art historian."
Did he ever tell you why?
He didn't. I auditioned against a bunch of other people, but I wanted that job so bad. I did everything I could to get that job, and that was absolutely the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. Next week, bring some CDs. He said, "Do you know what you want to do?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, I'm leaving. This is your show now."
It was definitely a sink or swim moment.
He was like, yes, I found my replacement. Yep, salsa's fun.
Salsa's super fun.
Hello, welcome to Good Job New Mexico. I'm your host, Stacey Johnston, and today I am joined by Samantha Garza, Program Coordinator for the Department of Workforce Solutions. Hi, Samantha.
Hi, Stacey.
Thank you so much for joining me on this recording. This is for Mary-Charlotte Domandi, host of Radio Cafe.
Awesome. I'm really excited to join you guys today.
It was great talking to her. We got to talk to her over Zoom, and she had the best background. She had a million books behind her, very intimidated by, is she reading all those books? And I'm just an audiobook person. What about you?
I'm a little bit of both. Mostly I like physical books. I like physically having them, turning the pages.
Sure.
But I'm also kind of getting into the Kindle right now. So we'll see from there.
For sure. Do you bend the pages?
No. Oh my gosh. They're so
I know.
I receive them as I get them.
Yeah.
I don't bend the pages. I don't bind the cover. None of that.
It drives me bananas when my kid does it. I'm like, don't bend that corner. But, I'm like, this is why we buy you bookmarks. Just use the bookmark. So Samantha, tell me about you and how long you've been with the department.
So I've been with the department for 8 years. I just reached my 8 years in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm really excited. Kind of started off as a career consultant. I worked on the SunPath grant. So I was kind of stationed out of the C&M main campus area. Absolutely loved it. Kind of transitioned into doing one of our other programs, which was TANF VT. That I absolutely loved.
Vocational training, VT.
Yes. And it was just great to see all of these individuals come in from different backgrounds of life, seeing how excited they were, knowing they could go into school and finish school and do so much more than they thought they could. So it was amazing.
I feel you strike me as a person that just loves what you're doing no matter what.
I kind of do. I really do. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I find the passion in it, right? And I love helping people in kind of every aspect. So it all worked out so perfectly.
Okay. And tell me about your first job, because you kind of mentioned it to me yesterday, and I want people to hear it too.
So my first job was at Cliffs Amusement Park. I absolutely loved it. It was my first job. I technically had 3 jobs in my life. So that was my first. And I started at Cliffs at the age of 14. And
Under a work permit?
Yes, under a work permit. And it was crazy because
Just checking.
I never actually went into a workforce. I got it from school. They were able to do it there. So that was great. And, it was funny because we had to wear yellow T-shirts. So that way those were the kids that were underage that could only work X amount of hours, which was great. But I worked in the banquet area and I loved it. And I was there for 4 seasons. And towards the end, I became a supervisor. It was one of the best jobs. And I learned a plethora of knowledge there.
And your favorite ride at Cliffs?
Oh, that's a hard question. I really liked the Rattler. That was one of my favorites. Quick, easy. I liked it.
Okay, I've never tried it. It looks a little intimidating for me. I'm still just like the tried and true orange coaster that looks like it's going to take longer than it does, and it's very fast, but it's a good one.
It's a good one for sure. I like that one.
In this episode, something I latched onto right away was that she has a passion and she just made that her job, which is so exciting to make that your career, right?
Yes, definitely. She wanted something and she got it. No matter what it took, she just went for it.
For sure. It can make anything happen if you just set that goal and you do whatever you need to do to achieve it. Throwing herself into being a DJ, I would never. Would you?
No, I could never do something like that. I don't know. I don't have enough guts to take the jump, I guess.
For sure. I mean, maybe way back in the day with all my CDs, I thought I was a DJ in my own car, but I don't think I'd have the guts to be like, hey, everyone, listen to my mix that I've put together.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I could do something like that either.
Her passion for salsa, which really drove her whole career, it sounds like, just moving to New Mexico, immersing herself in the culture, and then just finding that passion out of doing that. That's amazing.
I know. And then learning Spanish along the way because of the passion for salsa was absolutely amazing.
Anyway, Mary-Charlotte, she's just such a wealth of knowledge and how she got to where she is. I hope you really enjoy and take little nuggets along the way of how she did it, and maybe that'll help you as well or inspire you to also follow your passion and make it your career. You can do it too. So without further ado, here is Mary-Charlotte. Mary-Charlotte, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your expertise. It's something that looks like you've been doing for quite some time, which is radio and podcasting. So I can't wait to hear your whole story.
Thank you. It's fun to be with you guys.
Let's just dive into way back when. Where are you from?
I'm from the Hudson River Valley, Poughkeepsie, New York. Both of my parents were college professors, and my dad taught at Vassar College, which is in Poughkeepsie.
Oh my goodness. And how did you end up in New Mexico?
I went to St. John's College for grad school. I was living in Boston at the time, and I thought after one summer here at St. John's in Santa Fe, I was like, I like this place and I don't like Boston.
Yeah.
So I just gave 8 months notice at my job and drove out here. Lived here ever since.
And you've interviewed a lot of people. Have you heard the similar thing? Because our cabinet secretary had the same thing happen. They were just driving through New Mexico and she's like, I like it here. I feel like it's something about New Mexico that really hits people. And what was it for you that was like, yes, this is where I want to put roots down?
Part of it was the quiet. Part of it was that I could see the horizon from almost anywhere. And for some reason, that was really important to me, getting grounded on the land and having a relationship to land and sky, even though I spent a lot of time indoors because I'm a podcaster and everything. But that was a big part of it. And part of it was just that intuitive thing that you can never really explain what it is. Like I had a friend who was also at St. John's and he was from Rhode Island. He couldn't wait to get out of here. He was like, it's so brown. I gotta get out,
It is a little brown, but the sunsets are absolutely beautiful here, I do have to say.
Indeed.
I used to say the same thing when I was a bratty teenager. I'd be like, but the dirt's brown, the buildings are brown, it's just brown. But it's beautiful.
Are you guys both from here?
I'm born and raised here in Albuquerque.
Same here in Albuquerque.
Okay.
Although I had a little stint in Arizona, but I don't feel like it counts because it was only 8 months. Have you ever lived anywhere else, Sam?
I've never lived anywhere else, traveled a bunch, but home is home. It's here.
I feel that way now too. It's been a long time, so.
For sure. And what was your degree in?
I got a degree in art history.
Okay. And what did you want to go with that?
I had a kind of messed up college career, let's just put it that way.
Why?
Well, because my dad was dying when I
Oh.
was there. I was kind of distracted.
Sure.
And then I was depressed after he died. I wanted to be an English major, but you had to learn Middle English, and my brain just could not learn Middle English. I was like, well, what do I have the most credits in? Art history. So I did that, and it wasn't a horrible thing. I really wasn't that good at it. And I worked for a curator the summer between my junior and senior year at a big museum in Boston. And he was a wonderful person. We're still friends. At the end of the summer, he said, thank you so much for interning with me, but MC, don't be an art historian.
Did he ever tell you why?
He didn't. And it's funny because I saw him last year and he said to me, the work you did that summer, I've been using it ever since. It was really so helpful. It was
What the heck?
this busy work, like cataloging. He was also a very intuitive person. He just knew that I would not be happy. And so I just decided that I would move to Boston, which I did. And, at the age of 22 and go, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, but I'm going to rent an apartment and look for a job. And that's what I did.
I would have been so confused by that comment. I don't know how I would have taken it.
Yeah, I don't know if you run with it and you're like, but this is kind of what I want to do. How do I go? And you're like, but maybe his intuition's right. Maybe this just isn't right for me.
I mean, he basically gave me permission to follow my own instinct, which is I knew I wasn't that good at it. Like, first of all, the emphasis is on historian rather than just art. And I wasn't a very good historian, but also people who are art historians have incredible visual memories. And I just didn't. And I have like a very good musical memory. And I found out, later I got into audio and I was like, you know what, I'm really a kind of audio person by nature. I don't regret it. I used what I learned in radio later. So it all sort of came together.
Is that where a love of music, is that where it started?
Well, I danced as a kid. I did ballet, and then ballet is one of those things where either you become a professional or you kind of get out. It's not like running or something where you might jog for the rest of your life or run. It's a huge commitment and it's your life if you go that way. So I didn't do that. And then when I moved to Santa Fe, I discovered salsa. That just took over my whole life. I mean, I loved salsa music so much. I listened to Salsa Sabrosa, which is the KUNM salsa show, every Friday night, and I recorded it and I listened to the tapes the whole week, like just over and over and over again. And then I waited for the next Friday and I taped that and I listened to that. And then I started taking dancing lessons and I started going going to nightclubs where they had salsa, I saw that a lot of people there didn't even speak English. So I learned Spanish, and I devoted a lot of time to learning Spanish language, which through the people I met and also through salsa, because I would just like sing along with the lyrics and figure out what the verb conjugations were and that kind of stuff. And then I met a wonderful man who was a wonderful dancer from Peru. And we got together, and eventually we got married, and we amassed this incredible collection of salsa records, salsa CDs at the time. It was all CDs. And we did a lot of dancing and a lot of listening to music and a lot of talking and thinking about music. And then about 5 years later, we kind of went our separate ways, and he went back to Peru. I decided I wanted to really just go full on with the salsa. So I went to Havana, Cuba to study dance and music. I also started DJing at nightclubs because I had all these records and I knew them pretty well. That was really fulfilling for me personally because it was like a new relationship to the music. It wasn't just dancing. It was playing songs that would make other people dance, playing songs that touched them, and then following one song from another in a way that had a kind of flow and integrity and stuff. So I did that, and then somebody asked me to DJ at KSFR, the public station in Santa Fe, and I also started DJing at KUNM Albuquerque on the Salsa Sabrosa show, which I had first heard, those years earlier. So I joined the Raíces Collective and DJed there and did the salsa show, and also did the Raíces show, which is on Mondays and Saturdays, which is a great show, and that's a lot of Latin music in addition to salsa, folk music from Paraguay and Peru and, all these, in Argentina and tango and all this stuff. I started interviewing Latin musicians. Like I would meet people who had a small band or whatever, and I would get them on the radio and interview them. At some point, KSFR at that time was in the process of going from a program of the Santa Fe Community College to being an independent public radio station. And so I started working there. I got hired part-time, and after a year and a half, somebody left the station to move out of Santa Fe who was doing a talk show. So I just stepped into her place. I mean, I auditioned against a bunch of other people, but I wanted that job so bad. I really did. I did everything I could to get that job. Then I became 5 days a week public radio talk show host in Santa Fe. And that was absolutely the most fulfilling thing I've ever done.
That's so amazing. And I want to mention that I think it's amazing that you learn Spanish by being more immersed in the language and the people instead of, going into the classroom, which is also super amazing, but you just immerse yourself there completely. And that's definitely admirable.
I think there's so many lessons to learn in your story just then. Like, you wanted that job, you went the extra mile to massively prepare for it, and then you got it. You went the extra mile to do it. I've seen this so many times, and maybe you've interviewed people that have done this, where they want a job, but they don't even look up the company or the place that they're looking to interview for.
Yeah, right.
My question always is what do you know about us? Have you invested any type of time of looking up where you're even interviewing? People just think they're just going to ask me about my skill set and things. But the people that are extra prepared like you did, those are the ones that always stand out. Those are the ones that want the job, and you can tell they're going to be motivated to do the job, which I'm sure you stood out massively compared to everybody else that was interviewing for that. And then you got it. So that's huge. When you were becoming a DJ, how did you have the skills for that? Who taught you? Was there a mentor process, or did you just kind of get thrown into it and you just picked it up?
So there was this wonderful Spanish teacher at the Santa Fe Community College named Fernando Mayans, and he was doing that show, the Saturday show on KSFR, and he would come over and borrow my CDs. And so one day he said, "Hey, do you want to try DJing?" And I said, "Sure." So he took me in and he showed me how to use the studio and how to press the buttons and, load the music and all that stuff. I watched him and I sort of took note of it. And then he said, "So next week, bring some CDs." So I brought some CDs. He sat me down and he said, "Okay, do you know what you want to do?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, I'm leaving. This is your show now."
It was definitely a sink or swim moment.
And he never did,
my
he never
gosh.
did it again.
He was like, "Yes, I found my replacement. Get out of here."
I know. I didn't know that was what he was planning. But yeah, I kind of got thrown into it. And the same with the nightclub DJing. I just figured it out, I just figured it out. But that's the thing. I couldn't learn Middle English, and I wasn't a very good art historian, but if I say so, I was a good DJ. I really I just knew what to put together, and I knew what songs would make people happy. I got a lot of good feedback too. It was really fun.
How did you then make the pivot from radio to podcast?
I left the radio station. Then I was like, what am I going to do now? It was a bittersweet thing because it was time to leave and I knew I had to leave, so I left. I had started podcasting my show in 2007. I figured that there were people who might not catch the show at 8 a.m, but would still want to listen to it, so they could go online and just press play. It wasn't even there wasn't even Apple Podcasts and those networks yet. I basically uploaded the MP3 as audio onto my website, and you could press play and hear the show if you didn't listen to it that morning. And I know people who did that. No, it wasn't a big percentage of the listeners, but then podcasting really became a thing. And so I decided I would just start podcasting. Then I was like, maybe I can promote that on my own. And I had a couple of podcast ideas and I tried to promote them on my own. Promotion is a really different skill set than production and actually broadcasting and podcasting. I did everything people told me to do, but it never worked. And when other people did it, the same things worked. So I was like, I need to be hired. So I approached the Santa Fe New Mexican, the daily newspaper here, and I did a podcast with them twice a week for years. That was great because it was basically just like the radio show, only on a podcast, and covered a broad variety of issues.
Did you go just walk into the paper and pitch the idea? Or how did that happen?
No, it was some kind of panel discussion about the state of the newspaper industry that I was going to, because I like to just keep up with what's happening in journalism. And so when it was over, I saw the editor of the newspaper and I just walked up to him and I didn't even think. The words came out of my mouth. I said, "Hey, Ray, do you want to do a podcast at the paper?" He's like, "That's a good idea." And then it was an interesting moment. It was that serendipity thing. I didn't even plan to ask him that. It just literally, the words came out of my mouth. And I ran into a friend there who was working at the Thornburg Foundation. And she said, "You want to have a drink?" I was like, "Sure." So we sat down and had a drink. And I said, "I just pitched Ray the idea of doing a podcast." And she said, "Oh, well, maybe we could give you a grant to do a podcast that includes..."
What?
I know. So we did. And I did a whole series on government reform, on good government. What are the obstacles to democracy, campaign finance, and voting inclusion, and all kinds of things that basically stand in the way of us being a truly inclusive democracy. I think I must have done 25 shows on different topics of that. It's still there. It's all that stuff is still on my website. I refer to those shows because the people who I got to interview, a lot of them were major heavy hitter political types. So that was, again, just being in a moment and saying words, and somebody asks you to have a drink.
That's amazing. And do you want to plug your website?
Yes, radiocafe.org.
There it is. So go listen, go to the website, all the things.
There's a bunch of stuff archived there. When Teresa Leger Fernandez became the congresswoman, I knew her from just being in the world. I think I'd had her on the show once or twice. And I said, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast where we talk a little bit about what you're doing for the first 100 days of your being a congresswoman?" She said, "Sure." So that's there too. We didn't do 100 shows, but we did shows every day or every 2 or 3 days for the first 100 days she was there. I put it on the Santa Fe New Mexican. I was hoping to get national traction, because who gets to interview a congresswoman every day?
For sure.
But it never took off, and I didn't get the kind of listenership, again, because the promotion thing. And I feel like anybody who goes into podcasting and wants to make money at it and wants to make it sustainable for them, they have to be a really, really good promoter, or they've got to find somebody else who is to work with.
Okay, you shared your resume with us, and thank you for that. I'm going to say my very favorite part of your entire resume is at the very end, because it says languages, and you put proficient in German and Spanish and rusty Italian. It literally has the word rusty on it, and I loved it.
Yeah, no, I mean, my dad was Sicilian American, and his parents were from Italy, from Sicily. When he died, I was like, I'm going to follow in his footsteps. And I'm going to be an Italian professor and all this stuff. And I went and I learned Italian. I wasn't super good at it, but I did learn. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a scholar. I'm not him. I can't do this. And it was kind of a disappointment, because I really wanted to. I missed him so much, and I just thought it would be a way of being close to him after he died. But I did learn Italian. But then when I learned Spanish, all my Italian it got all dissolved and mixed up, and I don't even try anymore. But if I went to Italy, it'd be fun. I would just speak Spanish and see what happens.
Yeah.
So did you grow up speaking Spanish and Italian, or?
No, I grew up speaking German and Italian. My mom was German. She was actually an immigrant. I learned German as a kid, and I still speak German. But I did learn Italian in Italy because my dad had a sabbatical. But then we came back, and I kind of forgot it. And then I learned again in college. But I really didn't learn Spanish until I got into salsa.
Yep. Salsa's fun.
Salsa's super fun.
Okay. So, Mary-Charlotte, we're going to ask you some rapid, not so rapid questions. Ready?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, work from home or in an office?
Home.
But what was your very first job?
Making desserts in a restaurant kitchen, and I was fired. I was demoted to waitress.
Why? What happened?
I didn't know what I was doing. I was 15. I don't know why I got hired.
They're like, oh, this 15-year-old, go make us some pastries and
Because
things.
I'd made some pies, and somebody had eaten my pies, and they were like, oh, she can be the dessert chef.
Wow.
I was like, okay.
What's your biggest fear?
Men with guns.
Your favorite go-to lunch?
Frittata. I have one in the oven downstairs right now.
Oh, hey. What's your favorite part of your job?
Meeting amazing people. It's usually by phone or Zoom.
Yeah.
Yes.
But people who are so good at stuff that I will never be good at, and having the chance to give that to listeners.
So our favorite New Mexican question to ask, red or green chili?
Christmas.
Yes, me too.
Well, Mary-Charlotte, thank you so much for your time. And thank you for the work that you do out there and the stories that you bring to people. And I hope everyone goes and checks out your website and your podcast. And just thank you for being with us today.
It's my great pleasure, and I'm going to say it again, radiocafe.org.
Yeah, we'll put it in our show notes also.
It's great to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to listening to you guys' podcasts.
Oh, well, thank you. Yay. We're only on season 2, so we're brand new. I'll call you for some tips later. All right, we'll see ya.
All right.
Bye. This has been a New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions production. Our producer is Milo Koleski. This episode was engineered and mixed by John Sloan. Theme music is One Fine Day, courtesy of podcast.co. Follow the show on social media at GoodJobNM. For program funding, visit our website, dws.state.nm.us/funding. Bye.